And we're live, I think.
Yeah, it looks live at my end, mate.
Yep.
How are you?
Pretty good. It doesn't look live on the... oh, there it is. It's just slow. Yeah, pretty good, pretty good. Just for a note to everyone, I have got a Wallaby shirt on, but I don't even like rugby union. It's I got this shirt given to me, I think. I don't even remember how I got it, to be honest. So if anyone wants to make comments, go ahead. But it won't bother me if you call Wallabies a bunch of pussies, because I don't even watch them. So, Gaz, you're back from the dead, and so I thought it would be good to have you on, talk about some stuff, and, you know, find out about how you came back from YouTube purgatory.
Yeah, so, well, I noticed you got involved with a little bit of it, but only very slightly from comments that were made on your one of your videos, which you saw at the very end there. But to start the story a little bit, on the mid-November or something, I had an argument on Facebook, nothing to do with YouTube, with a flat earther, and you know, lots of people are going to have different views on this, but what I see as an over-the-top Jewish conspiracy theorist, and that probably goes in nicely with the flat earther thing. I mean, I'm not saying that you know, there isn't a sort of heavy Jewish thing and the Jewish history and Marx and all of those things you could get right into, right? But this guy's a real stub my toe, Jewish conspiracy. Milk's gone sour, Jewish conspiracy.
Yeah,
one of those types, right?
Yeah, there's plenty of that about. There's a lot of that about.
So in the course of arguing with him, look, my mistake, I said, you're that fucking dumb. I should make a video exposing how fucking dumb you are.
I've said that before.
Yeah, well, his retaliation was, I'll report every one of your fucking videos till you don't have a channel anymore. 12 hours later, I've got a strike.
Yeah.
So, you know, of course, YouTube, of course, don't allow you to face your accuser.
No.
So, yeah, so there's really no way of knowing for sure or proving who it was that got stuck, you know, or reported you or whatever. So that was strike one. Then you may recall I had Manosphere number 46 by Kevin Logan.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Right. And in the couple of days following, I made a response video to that. The very next day, he had a 1 hour live stream with Christy Winters.
Yeah.
And towards the end of that stream, a few minutes from the end, she said, oh, and now we're going to end the stream here because I'm going to be having a bit of a chat with Kevin off air for a while. That's as much information as I know. 12 hours later, I've got another strike. So again, the timing is, you know, it's just too coincidental.
Right.
Now, at that time, I didn't sort of think of the idea of setting all of my videos to private, but I was sort of really trying to keep a bit of a low key, and I wasn't telling any. I mean, I told you in private message that, and I think I recall saying to you, yeah, I could go out the door any fucking minute because I've got a second strike against me.
Yeah.
And then on the towards the end of January, which is actually where my real birthday is.
Yeah.
On my real birthday, YouTube terminated my account. Yeah, that was my birthday present from YouTube, beautiful. Even though they had no idea what my actual real birthday was. And yeah, I was thinking, fuck, you know. So I appealed it. Now, the first strike, sorry, just to backtrack a little, the first strike was supposedly for harassment and bullying, and that had to do with a video that I made called Spank the Baby. And it was a whole bunch of, and all it was footage of Antifa smashing up things and destroying public property. And then I would follow that footage with, well, I'd really like to respond to that. And then I'd cut to Scarface, why you say hello to my little friend? You know, and then I went to, I think it was footage of the guys that said, "I beat that." The black guys that dragged the guy out of his car and beat him up, and said, "Yeah, kick him. Hit him. He's a Trump voter." Everyone knows it really well.
Yeah.
And again, I would follow up with, "Well, I'd like to respond to that." And then I had Chris Christopherson in Blade come in and go, "Catch you fuckers at a bad time." Right? So apparently that was harassment and bullying.
Of course.
Yeah. So the second strike was on my video, "One Flew Over the Cuckold's Nest." Now, all I did in that video was read an article.
Right.
And the strike was supposedly for spam and deceptive practices. And so I was thinking, what? And so I go into all of the guidelines, rules and everything, and the only thing I could find that could possibly pertain to was the thumbnail. And it was a naked man with a dominance thing, with the woman with a collar around his neck holding him on a leash, right?
Right.
Now, you couldn't see the guy's genitalia or anything like that, but yeah, he was naked, but he could have been wearing shorts and you wouldn't have been able to see any difference, right, because of the body position that he was in. That was the only thing that I could think that it was about. The third strike, who I believe came from the guy that commented on your channel that day.
The one that was bragging about
me being gone.
Yeah.
Right. He made that day, he made 3 videos about me. 3 videos. Right. He's a fucking nobody that's had 6 subscribers. Now, he had another channel called Report of the Week.
Right.
And he closed that channel down, and then he came back with this channel called No Man's Land, right? Which he's now since closed down as well. Now, again, I can't prove that it was him, but it was all the gloating, right? But one of the things that I distinctly, he's very pro Susan Wojcicki, however you want to say her name, right? Real Wojcicki defender. Said that that he liked some of my videos, but I said things that he didn't sit well with him and all of that. I'm pretty sure he was the one that was responsible for it. In one of those videos that he made on that day, he said, "Oh, if Gary Orsum, if he can come back from, if he can get his channel back, he's Jesus Christ. He can walk on water."
Yeah.
Which is, and I made a reference to that in this month's edition of True Fake News about that particular comment. So I appealed to YouTube. After a couple of days, they got back to me and said, "No, we've decided to keep your channel terminated." And that's when Suit Yourself got in touch with me and said, "Look, you need to get in touch with this guy. Trusted. Well, he's one of the trusted flaggers."
Right.
And I had a little bit of DM conversations with him and sent him the links to the videos. And he looked at them and he said, "Well, I'm going to appeal both those strikes. I don't believe that you should have either of them."
Right.
And just before I get to that, the third strike was for the invisible rapist, which I didn't, which was one of my story time books. Right? It's about the rapist that doesn't rape women because he doesn't actually exist, right? and it's taken a piss out of the 1 in every 4 women narrative, when it's proven that it's 0.00, but it's 71,000 or something like that, according to the American Department of Justice. And it was only when I got my channel back that I could see that the violation was for hate speech. Otherwise, no one ever gave me any. Yeah. Fucked if he was a fictional character. All of these strikes, I really believe, were not legitimate strikes, false flags. But in all cases, my appeals were rejected. Anyway, about 5 days after my channel had been shut down, I got a message from Trusted Flagger on Twitter saying, "Your channel's about to be reinstated." I was like, "Fucking yes." And it came back, right? And I was just like fucking over the moon, of course.
So was that because the Trusted Flagger, that he appealed 2 videos and they were reinstated? Is that why? Or?
Well, that's the interesting part. Neither of the strikes that he appealed were the one that was overturned. It was the invisible rapist one. The one that got me terminated was the one that they overturned, and they set the invisible rapist to age restricted. So they didn't actually even remove the video.
Wow.
It's still there. You can still go and watch it. All you have to do is say, yeah, I'm 18. Yep, I'm grown up enough. You know, I'm not a snowflake. Let's watch it.
Yeah.
Man, that's the story of how I got my channel back. Now, of course, you know that Suit Yourself had his channel shut down. And of course, I feel really bad about that because he was instrumental in me getting my channel back.
Yeah.
Whereas I can't help him because he knows the same person and he's been in touch with the same other person.
Yeah.
So, and it seems to be not working with him now. I don't know if I should say this, you know, love the guy, I've been trying to help Suit out. But he did sort of confess to me in private message that the thumbnail that he got terminated over, which was a silhouette of a hangman,
right,
where it said YouTube Hangout. So all it was a play on the Hangout word, right? He had a bit of an argument with Trusted Flagger. He basically stood up for his pride and said there's nothing wrong with it. And Flagger kept saying, well, you know, there is, and blah, blah, blah. So that's where, if I were in Suit's position, I would have definitely, you know, said, look, all right, I'll bend over, give it to me in the rectum. Hang on, I'll just go get some lube. and you know, and be fucking done with it and get your channel back.
Yeah.
Right?
He would have had to take that video down or remove the thumbnail or replace the thumbnail or to get, or what?
Well, I don't know how they would have been able to get his channel back, but I think he should have, you know, not getting on the bad side of Trusted Flagger. Not that he necessarily got on the bad side, but sort of disagreeing with him in any way.
Yeah.
You know, if you, well, what is it? What's the saying? You catch flies with honey, not vinegar. They say, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, so fucking that was the saga.
Yeah, I see. Devon Tracy must have someone on the inside, because Dave Cullen said his channel had been deleted again, which must be at least the third time or the fourth time. And when I went to check, like yesterday, I think it was, he's back up again. So he's all right, I think.
Yeah. I mean, again, a lot of these people must have friends and know people, and they've been in the business for longer than us, right?
Yeah.
And you know, I only got back just on this fucking thread of the one person being able to help me out. Now, I don't know what happened on the inside. He when he came back to me and said your channel's been reinstated, that's basically all he said. He didn't give me any information about it, and I just was like, fucking thank you.
So
it's strange, because I noticed you did a video a couple of days ago where you were talking about how fairly you believe YouTube are sort of treating at least switching the videos back to green and the monetization thing, even though, you know, you've lost revenue. But
well, it's not that I think they're fair. It's that you know, it's better than it was. That's all. I mean, it's just better than it was during the Adpocalypse. There's no doubt about that. And they get, I mean, you know, before it was demonetized and that's it. There was no appeal process. And for me, you know, I can only speak for myself and say that 9 out of 10 times I appeal something, it gets reinstated. So, you know, but that's just me. And they are getting quicker at doing it because I think they're demonetizing less.
well, I wouldn't agree with that they're demonetizing less. My argument there is, at least in relationship to my channel, there is no algorithm. Every video I put up gets demonetized, every single one, and I have to appeal every single video.
Well, see,
the point I was going to get onto with all of that part of it was, since I got my channel back, they seem to they must have put like a team of 10 people just on my channel, because over the next week, every video just got reviewed. And I was getting emails with 61 videos all in a row and that being, you know, giving the yay or the nay. And my channel has actually come back in much better state than it was before. Videos that were demonetized and already confirmed as demonetized have been re-reviewed and switched back on.
Wow. Because I've actually had the opposite experience where the other day I went to look at, I just went back through the most viewed videos, and I'm like, shit, I've got a bunch of videos now that have been demonetized that I had been through the review process before, have been re-reviewed and now demonetized again. So
that's another thing I've noticed too. And one of the things with me is particularly true fake news.
Yeah.
And strangely, I did this video that I just sort of did this quirky thing that had nothing to do with social justice, feminism, or any of the usual topics. And I was just taking the piss out of paranormal activity from years ago. And I just got video of people just standing around the house doing nothing and just called it normal activity, and was saying about how it was just the most fucking boring film ever. Right now, that must have sat for nearly 2 weeks in demonetized mode. Then it was switched back on. Then a week later, I switch it off again, and then it sat there for another week in you know, demonetized mode. And now a few days ago, it's been switched back on again. So they've at least had 2 goes of that. The true fake news episodes that I put up have been switched on and off and on and off and on and off. It must be 4 or 5 times.
So the problem is, I don't know if you saw Andy Worski said that he had a video demonetized that was old. It was about, you know, it's like one of those response videos to Francesca Ramsey. And so what's happening is they're going back and retrospectively applying guidelines that were updated after people made those types of videos. So you remember back in 2016 when response videos were all the rage and everyone was doing them, right? But then they brought in last year, you can't criticize even celebrities, right? So, I mean, I've got a video that takes the piss out of the idiot, I'm a nasty woman. What's her face? You know that one?
Ashley Judd.
Ashley Judd, yeah. So theoretically, I mean, and it has been demonetized after being demonetized, after being monetized, but theoretically I could get a community guideline strike for that. And it's retroactively applying new guidelines. I mean, my point is that, my point I made in my video the other day, which, by the way, that was a pure coincidence. I've been thinking about launching that newsletter for months, and I just haven't got my finger out. But the thing is, YouTube told us that they were going to do this. I mean, the community guidelines are so narrow and so vague that you know very well that anyone in the skeptic community or anti-social justice, whatever you want to call them, could get, if someone wanted to go through their channel with a fine-tooth comb, they could find 3 videos to give you community guideline strike. For example, Thunderfoot could get guideline strike just for allegedly attacking Anita Sarkeesian, couldn't he? I mean, his videos are factual in nature. They debunk her bullshit, but, you know, he makes jokes at her expense, and that would be enough. You know, anyone, I mean, take the most innocuous, I don't know, like maybe Armored Skeptic, right? He tries to be as fair and balanced as he can. I bet you could go through his video catalog and you could find 3 things that are potentially, you know, hate speech or something like that. If you want to stretch the definition far enough, which it is vague enough to stretch, and pretty much anyone could get their channel taken down. So, I mean, you're just hanging by everybody's hanging by a thread, really.
Yeah. Well, I find, you know, with my strikes, as I said, to me, they were all illegitimate, you know, false flag type of strikes. There was no validity to them. There was nothing that was hate speech in the 3rd strike. There was nothing that was spam or deceptive practices in the 2nd strike. And who the fuck did I bully or harass in the first one by saying, you know, Antifa are jerks?
Yeah. It's hard to, but yeah, I mean, you know, you've got the SPLC on the trusted flaggers list. Who else is on the trusted flaggers list? It's just, you know,
I don't know, but it was when I only heard recently that the SPLC were going to, you know, and that's not going to work out well for our side with the shit that they come out with.
No, I mean they're ridiculous, and
they're worse than YouTube themselves. You know.
Yeah.
And, now I can't remember whose video it was, but I watched a video about a month ago where it was he had got information from somebody that was, you know, when they did the Adpocalypse, YouTube outsourced. You know, they brought in all of this company from the outside that won this contract to do all of the manual reviews. And it was somebody from inside the manual review team that had leaked information about how, you know, the policies that YouTube had put in place and how they said to, you know, go about reviewing these videos. And they, according to his video at least, or according to this insider, whether it's true or not, that YouTube instructed them to go ahead and make their own personal moral judgments about, you know, if it was something that they personally disagreed with, that they were permitted to go outside the guidelines as well that had been given to them, based on their own feelings.
Yeah, and the guidelines that were given to them are different to the guidelines that are given to us. And I don't know if you noticed, because there was a little screenshot of it. And again, I can't verify that it's it's a screenshot. I can't verify the source, but the screenshot had a category that said anything that challenges, or I think it was challenges, women's equality, right? Anything that challenges women's equality was something that could be demonetized. Now, what does that even mean? I mean,
that's right. Well, how do you define women's equality when there's lots of arguments out there that women are already in the superior position?
I mean, just yesterday, I think Twitter, the YouTube account tweeted out a silly little meme about the gender wage gap. Christina Hoff Sommers then replied to YouTube and said, how about you tweet out my video on the gender wage gap that debunks it along with your tweet. Of course, they didn't reply. But and you should go and have a look at that tweet thread. I think Dave Cullen talked about it in his video yesterday. You should go and have
I had a look at some of it.
The tweet thread is
it come up, and to me that whole, as soon as I saw that the SPLC were slagging out Christina Hoff Sommers, or I'm just going to use that term, that broad term of it, I was just like, you people are fucked. Something wrong with you. You know?
I mean, Cassie J's on that list. I mean, just go back and think that they put Ayan Ursi Ali on it. Majid Nawaz, who's actually suing them, he's got a lawsuit, a defamation suit against them. Remember, he did a fundraiser for that. They are, I mean, who knows what else they've got on there. But I was actually going to do my under the radar about that today, but I don't know if you saw another Google lawsuit come out yesterday about the guy that got sacked because he refused to abide by the diversity hiring policies.
No, I didn't know about that one. I downloaded the Demore complaint. I mean, it's quite a few pages. What was it, 161 pages or something?
Yeah, this one's only 29, and I don't know if it's the full thing because there's only like 3 exhibits, so there's not much to it. But this one's interesting because this guy was a recruiter for YouTube, recruiting software engineers for YouTube. And they actually had a very explicit policy, I think it was in 2017, to only hire Black people, women, or Hispanics. That's it for a particular time. And he reported them to HR, and HR investigated and shut it down. And then they opened it up again. They just went back to business as usual. And eventually he went through about 3 managers and got fired.
Yeah. So basically they shut it down probably so that they could say, look, oh, no, we shut it down. And then they just reopen it and sack him and tuck him off. It's just so corrupt, you know.
And he wasn't by himself either. He had his team of recruiters all complained. Oh, not all of them, but I don't know if it was all, but, you know, he said it was him and 4 others went and complained, firstly about this Apparently this woman that was in charge was just a complete lunatic and used to yell at them and just berate them and say, basically, if you don't do your diversity hires, you'll be fired and all this kind of stuff. They complained about her. People just left and transferred to other departments, and he was the only poor prick that stayed there. And he tried to leave twice. He actually found 2 jobs, and they poisoned the well so he couldn't leave. It's just a disaster. Anyway, I'm going to post that video straight after we get off this stream. It's about 17 minutes long. Jeez, it's appalling. It's just absolutely appalling. And it's not, it's endemic in the company. And for them to come out and say, they came out in the Wall Street Journal and said, we don't hire on the basis of identity, we hire on merit. And it's just, what a load of bullshit.
Yeah, it's just lie after lie. And it just seems to be everywhere now, and I mean, you and I go back a couple of years to when we started our channels, and we used to talk about this stuff coming.
Yep.
And fucking here it is.
But when we talked about it then, we kind of was like, it was a bit of a joke, wasn't it? It's like, oh, can you imagine if they do this? And they are doing it. And that's why what I think is dangerous is that for so many years now, for a couple of years, 3 years, people have been saying, well, don't worry about these snowflakes on universities because they'll go out into the real world and they'll get a shock. They are in the real world. There are jobs for them. There are corporations that are essentially adopting social justice values into their corporations. So the idea that, oh, you're going to go out in the real world and get a shock, no. That corporations are bending over some of them are bending over backwards for these people and their ideologies. And
but they are still, but the real world is a lot of ththings outside of
Silicon Valley.
Yeah, and outside of Google. And as the Demore complaint says, that they live in this ideological bubble. That was one of the real features of that complaint, of groupthink. And there's a lot more out there in the world, a lot of other industries, of course. But Google has all these tentacles that go into all manner of, if you use the internet, how do you escape from Google? Well, you really, in many ways, you can't. And I don't know if this is true on your computer, for example. I don't know if you've tried this, but have you ever tried to look at YouTube from Internet Explorer?
No.
Will not work on my computer.
Really?
Unless I'm in Google Chrome, I can't look at YouTube. Now, I have used Firefox before and other browsers, but I haven't got them on my system at the moment. I've only got Chrome and Internet Explorer, but I know
maybe you need.
I can't look at YouTube and Google stuff with Internet Explorer.
Yeah, well, they've upgraded Microsoft to Microsoft Edge, I think it's called now, is their new browser. So you might, I don't know if you have to upgrade or something, but
possibly.
Yeah, well, I only know that because I just got a new computer like 2 months ago, and it's on it. So I wouldn't have known otherwise.
Okay.
Yeah. So, well, yeah. I mean, my objection to there's a purge going on is this was announced well beforehand, and I'm not as shocked as other people because I thought, I mean, as I said, pretty much any one of us, if you want to go through our videos with a fine-tooth comb, you will find something that will breach guidelines. And, you can retroactively apply it to videos. I mean, they should honestly say something like, if you've got 2 strikes and they find a video that breaches community guidelines, they should send you an email and say, look, we realize that you made this video 2 years ago, but it now breaches guidelines, and we'll give you a choice. You either delete it or, your channel gets deleted. I mean, that would be helpful, wouldn't it? At least give you a choice to do that.
I'll tell you what's going on. There's virtually no communication from them whatsoever.
No.
Now, I understand that they're a huge company with, what is it, 1.3 billion YouTube users or something. But you and I, for example, we're in the top 100,000. I'm not saying that we're big people or anything like that, but you'd think there'd be a point where, that the top creators or the top whatever mark they set would be a bit, catered to and a bit looked after, particularly that because, we're getting those that are in the top 100,000, for example, are they're the ones that are generating the revenue through the ad revenue for YouTube. Mm. The other thing, of course, that, with the Heroes program and everything that went on there is, whilst I can say, look, it was these vindictive pricks that got my channel shut down and these people just acting out of spite, YouTube is responsible for giving them the tools and the incentive to do it. Mm. Mm. And it's YouTube that really want you out of the picture. But of course, it's that thing where they can say, well, it wasn't us that did it to you. It was the people that flagged you. And
well, I made the point in my video that I think people who operate in this genre, if you like, that we operate in, are just an annoyance to YouTube, and they prefer if we just went away. They prefer to get rid of us altogether. I mean, I think they would be happy if say, news and politics and social events were just commentated on by mainstream media outlets like Wall Street Journal, or CNN cuts up their TV footage and they just post it online, and that's it. And then the irony of that is that now you're back to what media used to be, which was the whole point of. That's why people moved away from mainstream media, because it wasn't cutting it. And then sort of YouTube is trying to bring back mainstream media via YouTube, which is sort of like, Jesus, that's a step backwards. Now, there's one thing I do want to say. We're going to move on to the SPLC letter, and we'll go through that. But there's one thing I wanted to say about it is that I do understand from some perspective why Facebook and YouTube are not only under the gun, but why they're trying to clamp down on, say, fake news, whatever that broad category actually means. And that is because these guys, I didn't realize how far Facebook had penetrated the news market, but apparently 45% of Americans get their news from their Facebook news feed. Mm. And Facebook and YouTube are under no regulations whatsoever, in the same way that a newspaper would be, or that a TV station would be. So, I mean, the only thing that YouTube is liable for is copyright. But other than that, there's no journalistic standards, say, right? Mm. And so I understand why people want to impose regulations on them. And I just wonder if they. Because to me, YouTube would just breathe a sigh of relief if they got rid of the news category. This is the other thing. People say, oh, well, YouTube's going to shit. We represent something like 2%. The whole news category, that's everybody in it, represents like 2% of all views on YouTube. I mean, it's a tiny, tiny thing. They could do away with it and it wouldn't matter. They wouldn't care.
Did you watch Paul Saga on Paul Joseph Watson?
Oh no, I haven't.
Okay, one of the topics that they brought up at the beginning was basically how it's YouTube appear to be leaving the alt-right largely alone, and it's the centrists,
right,
and that are actually the ones that are getting booted out. I didn't think in that video that they really sort of elaborated on why that is, but to me, it's the human psychology aspect of it. To me, seems fairly obvious, and that is if you leave all the alt-right people there, it's the real Nazis and whatever. Then it's really easy to point the finger and go, look at these crazies, look at how crazy they all are. Whereas if you get rid of the centrists, those that are balanced and sound sane. If you get rid of them, then you're getting rid of all the people that actually are putting forward the better, more reasonable, more centered arguments.
But did they produce any evidence for that it's centrists are getting banned, or did they just assert it into existence? I mean, did they actually give you a count of the number of centrist channels that have been deleted, as opposed to? Because I would
threw out a few names of here and there, which I can't even recall at the moment.
Yeah. So I wouldn't put much credence in that, to be honest. what is it? InfoWars has 2 strikes. I mean, I find it funny when people say, "Oh, InfoWars has got 2." It's like, look, InfoWars, and I don't care if I lose subscribers over this. InfoWars is the epitome of fake news. Alex Jones is a walking piece of fake news. Alex Jones has been running around for 20 years with fake news. He was at one of the original 9/11 is an inside job. He was 7/7 in Britain was an inside job. He's one of these people who runs around filming the participants that go to Bilderberg meetings, which is a harmless fucking group of people that doesn't do anything.
I completely agree that he's a sensationalist conspiracy theorist. I completely agree with you on that.
Yeah, he's just an idiot. Now, if all that said, of course, I don't want him to see him get deleted off YouTube, because I think, it should be a free and open marketplace, but who the hell knows?
And look, I mean, I appreciate as well that what could be concerns over fake news. Again, people, the general public don't want to be lied to, and I'm not a big fan of these sort of like Poe type news stories and satire, which sounds strange coming from me because I satirize a lot, but when it's sort of really put into Poe type form and presented as journalist, as if it's like real journalism, my true fake news, and that it's so screamingly obvious that it's satire and it's fake.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not trying to convince people that what I'm saying is true in any way.
Yeah. Yeah, and then there's I saw what did I see? Maybe it was on Twitter. Someone tweeted out was remember the guy David Seaman? I think he was the original Pizzagate guy. He tried to pass himself off. Now
I don't remember that, but I used to work with a guy with that actual name. I mean, Seaman it's not the sort of name you forget easily, is it?
No, but
I just used to say to him, "Don't laugh in my face," right?
he was. You just had to look at the guy. There was just something wrong with him, and I mean, he's fake news. I don't, blame him. You can understand in the aftermath of an election where the Russians, spent whatever they spent, a couple of $100,000 on Facebook ads and blah blah blah, which, in and of itself, there's no way in hell that could, sway an election result. But the thing about it is that these social media companies are now under the gun. I mean, you've got this is probably one issue that there's bipartisan support for in Congress at the moment. If there's one issue, it is that tech companies like Facebook, like Google, perhaps even Amazon, have too much power, and regulations coming for them.
Under the gun. So, see, I think we discussed this in a stream previously. I've still got a problem with the idea that the advertisers came along and said, because of the Wall Street Journal like hit pieces and PewDiePie and all of that, when the Adpocalypse came along, that YouTube basically capitulated and went, oh, we'll do whatever you say. Yeah, we'll give you control of this and that. Again, if I were in their position, advertisers, they want to sell stuff. They want to make money. And to me, the threat of saying what you're trying to control our medium and our content creators, well, fuck off. If you want to advertise, if you don't like what we're doing on our platform and you don't want to advertise on it, don't. And the only person that's going to be missing out is you. We're YouTube. We've got the biggest viewership in the world. So to me, all of that doesn't make sense to me. And because to me, it's YouTube with the ones with the power, as you just said. Big tech, they're the ones with the power. So I know that the advertisers, these big companies that want to advertise, sure, they've got a lot of power too. But
well, they have. I mean, I'll tell you this. I think it was Unilever. Unilever is one of the biggest advertisers out there. They cut something like $100 million from their YouTube advertising budget, not because of controversy, but just to see as an experiment what would happen to their sales. And nothing happened. And so they've decided to cut more. And they're not the only one. I think, who's the other? Procter & Gamble, another huge advertiser online. They've done the same thing.
Even though YouTube are the biggest and most watched medium, what you're saying is there was an argument there that whether ads play or not wasn't really having any effect on return.
Well, that's always been the conundrum of advertising, right? I mean, it's hard to measure what the return on your advertising dollar is, and of course the great attraction of online advertising was that they could target you. So of course advertising on TV could always be targeted because they knew what demographics were watching, say, Friday night footy or something like that. But on YouTube, it's much more targeted because they know you just clicked off looking at, buying a new couch on Amazon or whatever, and then they can just throw that right in front of you. Or, you just looked at movie tickets and then they play the next trailer of some movie that's coming up, because that's it's far more targeted than, say, a demographic on TV, which you don't have much more information about. But apparently
with smart TVs, sorry to interrupt there, but with smart TVs, well, we've got a smart TV and it collects, we know it collects data. LG collect data on us and send it back about our viewing habits, because Mrs. Orsum noticed that, that we were getting pop-up ads and things to do with the TV that had to do with what we were viewing on television.
You mean when you're watching YouTube on TV?
Well, we watch just advertising in general. Whatever you watch on TV, whether you're watching free-to-air television or whether you're watching Netflix or whether you're watching YouTube, whatever it is through your TV. And for that reason, there's two things we don't do. We don't use the built-in camera on the TV. We keep it shut down. And we don't use the voice control on the remote control.
Yeah, I mean, all I know is I've got a smart TV, but the Sky News, the ads on that don't fucking change according to what I look at, because it's always these insipid fucking Trivago advertising for travel.
I was going to make a joke there and say it's not because they don't deal in porn.
No, but
that's all you watch.
Yeah, no, I mean it's not related on Sky, and I don't watch commercial television, so I don't watch Channel 9 or anything ever. So,
mate, you might just want to speak to address the people in the comments for a moment. I just want to go and switch the aircon on because I'm fucking baking in here.
No worries, mate.
Gear on.
Well, what's up with the homos in the chat? This has gone on. We've been talking about this YouTube stuff for almost 50 minutes, but we will get on to talking about the SPLC putting a voice for men on their hate list. That's what the topic of conversation was going to be. So unless someone's got some interesting topics or questions in the comments, doesn't look like it. You're just talking shit.
Just talking shit, talking about George Soros and
George Soros. No, I mean, I understand when people talk about Jewish conspiracy theories. George Soros is a dangerous person. He's got a lot of money and he funds groups. He's deliberately, I mean, he came out and said not long ago that he's actively trying to overturn Brexit. He says all kinds of things, but the idea that, these stupid conspiracy, I mean, I was embarrassed for Lauren Southern when she made a video. She interviewed the author of The Creature of Jekyll Island, which is all about how the Federal Reserve Bank came into being. That is one of the worst books. That is a conspiracy theorist books. I was so disappointed to read that book. It's the worst referenced, crappiest book I've ever seen. Yeah. But that's Lauren Southern.
I got a book here. You can see that, the Frankfurt School. And I mean, the synopsis on the back basically says it is the definitive book on the Frankfurt School. And one of the things it talks about early in the book is that there was in the early 19th century a definite Jewish resentment of bourgeois capitalism, that whilst Jewish people could be successful financially, they felt excluded from, the real power. And, there's definitely some level of truth that the Jewish elite had a real chip on their shoulder about Western capitalism. And Marx was a Jew, and all the early Frankfurt school philosophers, were Jewish, but there was non-Jewish prominent people involved. Like, I talk sometimes about Antonio Gramsci, because I see him as, the prison notebooks and that, because he was one of the guys that sort of popularized the idea of bringing socialism through the education system, through controlling pedagogy. But anyway. Yeah,
someone just asked, will you be watching the Oscars? I mean, I can't even imagine the cringe level that's going to be this year. It's going to be, look at all the stunning and brave black people, and we're all wearing black because, MeToo, and it's going to be atrocious. I don't know if you saw a tweet today. Somebody tweeted out a collage of about a dozen photos of women groping men in public, celebrities, groping men at award ceremonies and things.
Oh, the biggest, we know that these people, the Me Too movement, just the left in general, right? They're the biggest fucking hypocrites on the face of the earth.
I don't know. I wanted to make a video. You remember I made a video where I just talked about molesting myself because I work at home by myself. I actually wanted to talk more in depth about it. I didn't get to talk about, I don't know how many young blokes out there have had the experience of waiting tables in a restaurant, in a casual dining restaurant on a Saturday night. I tell you what, I did it for about 3 months before I left Australia to go to Thailand in 2001. And I can tell you, you could set your watch by it on a Saturday night. In comes a table full of people, and there's a couple of single women in their mid-30s, and you can set your watch by it. 2 or 3 wines in, and out come the compliments. Yep. I worked in this really hot restaurant. It was small, and the kitchen was right there, and I wore cut-off tank tops, right? Yep. And I was in good shape, and women would always be grabbing you by the arms and commenting and saying all kinds of stuff. Yep. The difference is blokes just don't complain about it. We just go and I remember thinking, because when you're sober and you see these sort of slightly over the hill 30-something women slobbering all over you, it is quite disgusting to watch them. I mean, there's nothing worse than a drunk woman, just being sloppy and that sloppy. I mean, if you're drunk too, it doesn't matter, but when you're sober, it's just this, it's horrible. And
I was in rock bands when I was young. Right, I'm as old and ugly as a sack of potatoes now, but 30 years ago I wasn't, and I was up on stage, and mate, I know all about women throwing themselves at you, and grabbing you. I used to get lots of that.
I would say every single one of my mates, when we were growing up and we went just to the local nightclubs, there's not one of my mates who hasn't been grabbed on the arse on a dance floor or in a club. I mean, they all have.
They do it too. But for them, it's the fucking, but it's so much worse for women. And it goes back to that comical thing, comet strikes Earth, women most affected. And while I was bringing up the thing about things from outer space, did you read the fucking Mars colonization of Mars article that's going around by that maniac from Stanford University, Marcy Bianco?
Oh no, I haven't read that.
Saga put it in This Week in Stupid, and it's a dig at Elon Musk and just the whole.
Wait a minute.
The quest to colonize Mars is patriarchal colonization, white man, evil, bad. As if there's little black Martians that are going to be oppressed, and all the Martian women that we're going to go and.
I see a lot of this stuff. I think it's penis envy. It's an envy of male innovation and ingenuity. And, you know, I think Musk's, you know, Mars stuff is kind of nuts myself. I mean,
yeah, I know you're a bit pessimistic. Well, I mean, about the Tesla thing.
Yeah, but see, that's a whole other story that people just don't understand. I mean, it's so bizarre to me that, I mean, I come from an investment background. I used to work in that industry. I criticize Tesla as an investment. I actually like the fact that there are people like Elon Musk out there. I mean, he kickstarted a electric vehicle revolution. Like he kickstarted it. He made electric vehicles sexy. Now,
and also sort of brought them on the edge. He's brought them to the edge of viability, even if they're not quite there yet.
Yeah, it's for me, it's not an argument about ideology. It's not a climate change argument at all. It's an argument about, is Tesla a worthwhile investment at $350 a share? And I say no. It's losing money, and it's losing money hand over fist. And by the way, if you've been tracking, and I track this shit, I tweet it out all the time. Their sales in Europe this year are down double digits, selling their cars. And they're losing.
Yeah.
I mean, and by the way, BMW, Mercedes, Jaguar, Porsche are all going to have EVs starting at the end of this year into next year. I mean, the competition is massive, and these people make better cars. They just make better cars because they've been doing it longer, and the interiors are better, the performance is better, everything's better. And it's not an argument of it. And people come on and they accuse me in a comment section of being a shill for oil companies. It's like, it's just bizarre.
I get called a Nazi. I get called fucking right wing. I get called. Hope you enjoy, bashing your wife and all of that.
But this is what's interesting, though. Like, Gary, there was a mania back in 1999, 1998, 1999, 2000. That's when I worked in the stock market. I had a front row seat to that, right? And why I picked Tesla is because it's like the poster child for excess in this era. But I will say that the bubble in this era is, there's a bubble in stocks, but there's the big bubble, the mania this time around is actually cryptocurrencies. Cryptocurrencies is the mania. But Tesla does represent that stock that everyone sort of has as faith in. It's not really based on tangible evidence. It's about faith in the future that everything will come good. You know, in a couple of years' time, they'll be selling 750,000 cars and they'll be making $5 billion profit. And it's all, it's all
future projections high.
Yeah. But that always happens at the end of a stock market cycle. People are the most optimistic, and then shit happens, and all of a sudden their visions of the future get shortened, and they no longer are able to look over that valley and say, "Oh yeah, let's wait 2 or 3 years," and they say, "Fuck, gotta get out," and everybody and not everyone can get out the door at the same time. They never can.
Really, what you're saying is, in many ways, it's 1928.
Yeah, well, 1928, 1999, 2007, at the end of the housing, just before the housing crisis broke. I've seen this movie too many fucking times before.
Yeah.
Anyway, we've been going an hour and we haven't even got onto the SPLC thing. So I think we might give the SPLC thing a miss. But just before we go, was there any other topics you had in mind?
No, not particularly. I thought when you said you want to come on and just have a chat about what happened to your channel, I kind of initially thought, that was it. I mean, in many ways, the SPLC article, it's just all of it's real. I notice it's real name dropping, and it's a lot of what I constantly say, truth by assertion. There's no, they just assert truths. I mean, I'll just read the first paragraph because I think it's so atypical. Male supremacy misrepresents all women as genetically inferior, manipulative, and stupid, and reduces them to their reproductive or sexual function, with sex being something that they owe men and that can or even should be coerced out of them, driven by a biological analysis
of women as fundamentally inferior to men. Male supremacists malign women specifically for their gender, their thinly veiled desire for the domination of women, and their conviction that the current system oppresses men in favour of women are the unifying tenets of the male supremacist worldview. I mean, the first thing is they just made this term up. I've never heard it before, male supremacy. And the idea that men's rights groups explicitly go out and say, oh, women are inferior and they want to subjugate them. And I mean, men's rights groups are mainly about, you know, securing better custody laws for children, fairer divorce laws, maybe looking at the Duluth model of domestic violence, looking at male genital mutilation. I mean, this is just so off the planet. Yeah. And so you see the little trick there. They basically say, this is male supremacy, this thing we just made up, and men's rights are basically that. And then somewhere further on, they go, somewhere further in, they say something like, men's rights activism is basically the gateway to the alt-right. That's what they no evidence whatsoever. They just sort of say it is. So, and you must believe. There's
they bring up Elliot Rodger. They bring up, you know, they really fucking go back through it. They bring up Rouge V. Yeah. Oh man, fucking who else do they bring up in it? I got the article up as well.
Helen,
just rattle them off.
They say that Helen Smith, Erin Prizzi, Karen Strawn, Christina Hoth Summers, and Cassie J are all there to give them a veneer, give men's rights a veneer of even-handedness, was the quote.
Yeah, they bring up Milo, they bring up Cernovich, they bring up Matt Forney, whatever, Forney. But also too, I noticed that they, you know, on their side, they bring up, of all fucking people, David Fritchell from
I know.
You know, We Hunted the Mammoth. He's
so discredited, isn't he?
Yeah, completely. You know, he's just been completely destroyed. Everything he says, why do they even bother?
No, it's so sad. And I mean, why would you bring up Matt Forney's a pickup artist, isn't he? Isn't that what he is?
I believe so. I don't actually. Matt Forney's the one name in there I probably know the least about.
Yeah, I don't know much about him either. But Rouge V is a pickup artist who's then tried to morph into something else.
But it's all over they keep honing in back on the you know, that he said rape should be legalized. That was a satirical thought piece. And the same with they keep focusing in on Elam and his Basher Beach month. Whereas it's widely known. Everybody knows that it was in response to the 2007 Jezebel article, which I actually called up. If we were going to go through that article, you know, Jezebel one. Have you ever beat up a boyfriend? Because we have. He was their fucking man hatred, their misandry.
But that's what they used when Cassie J arrived in Australia. Remember, they tried to hit her with that. Oh, you've got Paul Elam and you had that stupid half-bald feminist saying, "Oh, I don't think it should be shown because Paul Elam said this." You know, fucking moron that she is.
Half-bald feminist Jessica.
Yeah, Jessica Rowe.
Oh, well, mate, we've got all the terms down now. We know who's who.
It's incredibly sad. But I mean, there's been I think I still will do an article on this SPLC because there's been so many articles written about it now. And like there's another one today that said, stop pretending that the SPLC is a credible organization.
Yeah, and they're not at all.
And the sad part is, I mean, YouTube thinks they are, and you know, they're flagging our videos. So,
mate, have you got Netflix? Where you are?
I haven't now. I had one of those free trial months a couple of months ago. But
yeah. Oh, okay. A couple of times. I mean, I watched it a few months back, but again, I've just watched the series a couple of times again in the last week or so. Is Ken Burns on Prohibition?
Right.
If anybody out there hasn't seen that, so it's a 3-part thing on Netflix, definitely go check it out. Is
it new?
No, it's been around for. I think it's been around for a few years.
That's Ken Burns that did the Civil War, World War II. He just did one on Vietnam, which was excellent. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, his stuff's great. But one of the things I find really interesting about it is how it was the women's temperance movement. You know, and it was all women. That they changed it, but it was actually largely again women that turned it around and got rid of it. and just like the cultural things and how it just shatters the Matt Binder 100 years ago women reviewed chattel fucking crap, right? And how there was women actually had a lot of cultural.
They always have.
Yeah,
they always have. I think that, you know, if there should be one thing that the younger generation of men take away is that you should never feel a sense of shame from a woman for doing something that's you know, you shouldn't be ashamed of. Like, that's something that's just masculine. I mean, that's something that, yeah, I think you have to learn these days. There's nothing a woman could actually shame me about today. There's nothing I would be embarrassed about, or or any position that I hold that, you know, that I can be shamed about. And that's something culturally that men need to learn, I think.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel very much the same way. And you know, basically every nasty name I'm called in the comment section of my channel is basically untrue. Or not basically, completely. Everything that they accuse me of, you know, being a Nazi, being a woolbasher, being right wing, they're completely untrue.
Yeah,
they carry no water.
Well, think about that SPLC article. I mean, you have someone, they name someone like Mike Cernovich, like Mike Cernovich is married, he's got a young kid, and like, I mean, what do they think of these women that marry someone like Cernovich? They think, you know, and I don't really have any strong opinions either way on Cernovich about his credibility or anything, but I mean, seriously, they paint these people as complete monsters, and it doesn't bear any resemblance to reality whatsoever.
Yeah. I mean, the way that SPLC articles, you'd think that these guys get together and have, you know, baby eating gatherings, the way that they portray them, you know, it's just ridiculous. I mean, Paul Elam's, I mean, you know, he's got really strident and strong views, but and I don't agree. I don't agree with all he says. He's no. way more what would be the word? You know, it's MGTOW, I guess.
Yeah.
So even if you're not saying, you know, I'm not labeling him.
Yeah, I know what you mean. Yeah, I know what you mean.
He's way more MGTOW than I'll ever be.
But I tell you what he did do the other day. I don't know if you saw this. He put out a video where he explained, somebody had asked him, why are you so hard? Why do you go at it so hard? And he did about a 15-minute video where he explained why he went at it so hard. And it's really good. I mean, it's really principled. And you think, yeah, you know.
About protecting men. I haven't seen it. But see, to me, that's what I see him not focused on disliking women as much as he's interested in protecting men and making men aware of the dangers that are out there.
Yeah. And I think the other thing, though, is that because I mean, it is true we live in a gynocentric culture, and that any perceived criticisms of women are seen as much more harsh than the same type of criticism of men. So, you know, the fact that Elam, it's that old saying, it's that, you know, that's often used against white people or men or something, but it's for women, the moment you are treated as an equal, it feels like discrimination because you're used to female privilege. I mean, there's actually someone reminded me of this the other day, a scientific experiment where they showed a woman being treated the same way as a man, and the women thought it was sexist. And then they show a woman being treated better than a man, and they think it's equality. You know, they're accustomed. They are acculturated into being treated better, and that's why, you know, women are saying the same things about men that Paul Elam, and much worse every single day, but they just won't be called out for it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, exactly. And again, getting back to that prohibition program, just even then, look, you know, I'm not denying that, you know, for example, Mrs. Orsum points out that, you know, back from the 60s and before, if you were a school teacher and then you got married, well, that was the end of your career. You were expected to go off and have a family. You know, I completely agree that that's not fair. You know, a woman should still be able to work in whatever chosen profession that she was in. But, you know, you can see from watching something like Prohibition that women had a lot of privileges and were cared for. I mean, one of the things was this old maniac woman called Carrie Hatchett, Carrie Nation, who basically used to go around with a hatchet and rocks and things and smash up all the illegal saloons, and the men basically would hide in the corner and wouldn't do anything about it because they all had, well, what can I do? I can't attack a woman. She'd come in and smash up the place. Of course, the other reason that they couldn't defend it was because the saloons were illegal.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I mean, prohibition hadn't basically come in, but I think by that time saloons had become illegal, and it's just really interesting too how the trade in alcohol and that just didn't even slow down. And it took them like 80 years the better part of 70, 80 years to make prohibition happen, and it was fucking dead in 13 years. And that's also, to me, paints a lot of, I bring it forward to today and relate it to how they're trying to take away your rights to do things, despite whatever problems were brought about by alcohol. At the end of the day, trying to encroach on people's freedoms and choices and rights to make their own decisions in life and be responsible for themselves, it fucking doesn't wash. It doesn't last. It's going to burn down.
Oh, yeah, eventually. Yeah. We have to endure a lot of... I tell you what, I saw Karen Strawn say something today. Let me try and remember it. She was quoting someone else. She said that first wave feminism was about getting the same rights as men without the responsibilities. So, you get the vote without having to sign up for the draft, for example. Second wave feminism was about getting rid of more responsibilities for women, and third wave feminism is about putting more responsibilities on men, which is, what you see, these constant, you have to give it to them. They figured it out. They figured out systems of sort of getting men to do their bidding, in a sense that today, I mean, if you talk about domestic violence, which we don't, we talk about violence against women. What they do is they get a prominent male to come out and say, all men have to stand up and call out this behavior, blah, blah, blah. Same with the MeToo movement, sexual harassment in the workplace. It's something that happens to women, never happens to men. All men need to stand up and take a stand against sexual harassment. They do. They've just put all the responsibility. We need to mentor women in the workplace. We need to do. We need to. It's like. I mean, at the end of the day,
being rejected largely as well because they're just going so fucking mental, and they're saying no reasoned person. I mean, this one about the Martian thing. If you go onto this woman's Twitter, right, where she's basically going, I did this article and now all the men's are freaking out. Well, half the people that are on there are women. Yeah. Basically just going, you're a fucking lunatic. The stuff you're saying is mad. And do you not also, a lot of people are basically saying, don't you know that the head of SpaceX is a woman?
Right. And the other thing is that, this is always happens. Is that, I mean, look at Kathy Newman, poor old Kathy Newman. And actually it turns out that Jordan Peterson got more abuse than anybody. Yeah. But it's the same thing when we talk about online harassment. What people forget, and I brought this up again the other day because I did a video on it in 2016, that at least half, but probably more like 60% or even 2/3 of harassment of women online comes from other women. Yeah. that's what studies say. It's stunning. But and this annoyed me as actually I'm not going to say it because this might get a strike on this channel if I bring it up, because it's one of those topics that you can't talk about. So I'll leave that for another day. But yeah.
Well, now you've really got my curiosity up.
No, I'll tell you. Go
read the Martian article and all of that.
I did actually. I did hear Sargon's video because I had it on in the background this week in Stupid, and I did hear that. Because it did ring a bell after you started talking about it.
It's whole, typical of men to want to go to Mars and colonize after they've turned Earth into a garbage tip. This sort of talk and that, and to rape and pillage. I mean, what are you going to fucking rape and pillage on Mars? There's not a fucking living microbe there.
Nothing. But again, I think it comes back to it's envy. Like women, you know, I don't think most women give a shit. But there's this, they look around the world and what do they see? They see men, despite whatever affirmative action movements they do, who's innovating, who's creating new things, who's winning Nobel Prizes? It's men, it's men, it's men, it's men. It's just, you know,
and also there's this resentment. There's this resentment of their success. They want it. They want it. They want to be noticed. They want the money. They want the power. They want the privilege. But they don't want to work for it. They just want to bitch and fucking moan until somebody says, "Look, here, take it. Fucking shut up." Right? And of course, as soon as you give it to them, they go, "Well, that worked. Fucking give me more. Give me more. I want more."
It's never ending.
Oh, it does my head in. You know, I mean, of all things, I'm a big believer in meritocracy. If you don't work for it, you know, unless you're fucking disabled in a wheelchair, then sure, then you need some help. Then you need some assistance. You know, everyone else that's able-bodied, so disabled, dumb, fucking stupid, got no time for it.
Yeah, well, what else to say? So I think we've said enough in this live stream to get a community guideline strike. You just abused disabled people, and we've talked about women, which is not allowed.
So I actually believe that what I said was that disabled people, in that case, actually deserve some help. My big crime was
exactly. Well, see, that's exactly what Donald Trump got done for, didn't he? You know, when they said
But haven't you seen? Have you seen the old one? I don't know if it is Steady Eddie or whatever, and he gets up and he sings. You've seen it? It's fucking hilarious.
I saw Steady Eddie. I saw Steady Eddie live in concert 25 years ago at the Wagga Leagues Club. And the main act was Jamoan.
Right. Yeah, I remember Jamoan. Yeah. He was all right. He was all right.
Yeah. It was hilarious.
Yeah. All right, mate.
All right.
Thanks for the invite on, and I think that's the first public, talk that I've come out and had about what happened to my channel.
Yeah.
Because up until the strikes were coming off, lots of people were asking me about it. Again, as I said in another video. Thanks to those people that, hundreds of people actually sent me letters of support and asking me what was going on. Yeah. And I couldn't answer them all. And people that sort of asked me what was going on, I was very reluctant to share and spread the information until I got it all resolved.
Yeah.
And I'm very happy to be back, and I appreciate the help of those that helped get my channel back as well. So.
Yeah, well, I'm glad you're back, and I just hope we can all hang on for a little bit longer and see what happens. But I fear we're not going to be around. This is the problem. You can't make any long-term plans around this platform because you just I
can envisage that we're all fucking dead in a year.
Although I would have said last year when the Adpocalypse hit in April, I would have said there's no way I'd be here now. I went, the Adpocalypse hit in the beginning of April. I went to the Freedman Liberty Conference at the end of April last year, and I was thinking while I was at that conference, I thought, oh, well, this is fun. I got some limelight for having a YouTube channel and 30,000 subscribers. That's what I had at the time. I thought, well, this won't happen again. This is a one-off thing. I honestly did not think I'd be here because of that Adpocalypse. I thought I was gone.
Mate, just before we do go, a couple of things that sort of just sprung to mind that I did want to bring up in this stream. And that was, as I mentioned to you, I'm going to be in Melbourne to see Jordan Peterson speak this Thursday.
Yep.
So, if you know me, you recognise me from the tube, and you're one of the people that are going, by all means, come up and say good day. People that don't like me probably wouldn't be at Peterson anyway. But if you don't like me, you're more than welcome to come up and say, don't like me, but apart from that, fuck off. And also, some other guy got in contact with me, and I believe it's 4th of March, which I thought was tomorrow, which seems like a strange day, but I can't remember who to get in touch with this. But apparently some people are going to get together and rally and march on Parliament House in Canberra at 12 noon or 1 o'clock, and I was sure that they said the 4th of March. because isn't that the Women's Day or something, 4th of March or something? Anyway, they're going to be marching on Parliament to highlight the issue of reform to the Family Law Act. They're going to be marching on Parliament and try to raise awareness about the mistreatment of men within the family court system.
Is there a hashtag for that or something like that?
I don't know, but somebody sent it to me in private message. I can't remember who it was, and he asked if I would push it on my channel. I just didn't get around to
no worries.
Doing it. I am going to be doing a video on the Mars thing because it's just so fucking out there. But rather than just report on it like Sargon did, I've decided that I'm going to report on it from an alien's perspective.
Oh, cool.
So
yeah, that'll be good.
I'm going to appropriate all the alien footage I can. I've got Kang and Kodos from The Simpsons are going to be making an appearance, and you know, some of you well-known alien friends will be in this video anyway, talking about what a fucking dumbass this woman is. I was going to say, oh yeah, someone in the comments asked a while back, talk about the Australian property market. I will be doing that probably in depth in my new newsletter, the deep dive. So look out for that one. It costs you $3 to subscribe, by the way, and it's you know, a lot of value for money there. So I just wanted to get that plug in. But yeah, I will be talking more about what's one of the reasons I started this newsletter is because it's just, as you know, there's just too many topics to cover, and there's topics that you can't cover legitimately on YouTube anyway. You know, if you're going to spend 2 days researching and making a video and then not get paid for it because someone might get offended by it. Do you put that up on Patreon, or where do you publish it?
Yeah, I'm just sending it out on a mailing list at the moment. I'm thinking about, I'll just see how it goes, and I might actually make a website for it where people can just subscribe and download. But at the moment, yeah, it's $3 on Patreon, $3 on Maker, if you want to pledge over there. And or people who, as sometimes happens, they donate on PayPal, just one-offs, and if they send me a private message and tell me their PayPal ID,
did you
I'll send it to them.
As independent man? Is that?
No, you have to set it up as a business account, and you need an ABN. I think you need an Australian business number. So I've
got one of those. That's not a problem.
Yeah, so I think that's the way you do it. It's just my name, but my name's public, so I don't really give a shit. So
yeah. I probably would have made my real name public by now, but it's because so many people have just come to know me as Gary.
Yeah.
I've just got to stick, you know, and it's kind of like a normal guy's name, you know.
And it's so weird because when I met you and you told me your real name, I just went, no, you are not that. You're a Gary, and you will always be Gary. And
you get locked into this thing,
yeah,
you know,
and your missus will always be Sharon as well.
Yeah, yeah.
She's
even though none of them are real, folks.
None of them are real. Yeah. It's great.
You'll get people contacting you now. Go, come on, just tell me.
What's his real name? Yeah, I'm not telling you. I'm not telling you.
You just say, I think I remember it was Mr. Arsehole or something like that.
I would actually. I'd actually have to think about it. Fuck, I think I've forgotten anyway. So you're probably in the clear. I probably remember if I rack my brain. Yeah.
No, there you go.
All right,
mate, thanks for the invite.
Let's put these people out of your misery. Thanks for coming, chat. We'll see you next time.